Oh, what are you up to, ETA?
I'm stealing your worthless identity. Ha diddly ha ha.
No! We talked about this. Look, don't worry. I've saved you for now. But in the future, if you don't want ETA to hack into your mainframe, you need to get today's sponsor, Surfshark. This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Safety and security online are super important. You can protect yourself from ETA and all those other bastards out there on the internet. Get 85% off and 3 months for free through the link in the description below. Supports the show. More on them in a bit. And welcome to Business Blaze. I am your boy with the blaze. This feels light, Danny. Normally you deliver me like 14 pages and I'm like, how long am I gonna be standing up? But today it seems a bit short. It's the fake facts that everyone thinks are true. Part 2. Also, did you like my special effects there at the video? I definitely didn't throw my laptop across the room. I swapped it out for a book that was sort of the same color as the laptop. It probably didn't look effective at all, but that's the kind of budget we're working with at Business Blaze. What happens here is there's some bullshit. There's a little bit more bullshit. Danny writes a script, I read the script, add some bullshit, Sam adds some memes, and let's jump into it. Supergirl, She-Hulk, Spider-Woman, Batwoman. I don't remember the last female superhero from the comics I used to read as a kid, but I thought I'd give the film a go in 2011. I assumed she must be Iron Man's sister or something. You'd be very disappointed if... I feel like this is a thing my parents would do to trick me as a kid. They'd be like, yeah, Simon, we're gonna go see the Iron Lady. And I'm like, oh boy, that's gonna be exciting. And then you get in there and it's a movie about Margaret Thatcher and you're like, oh, although I thought that movie was rather good. Good and patriotic. God save our gracious queen. God save our noble queen. Those are the only lyrics that I know to our national anthem because unlike our American friends, we don't have to sing it every day when we get to school, which is super weird. Smash that dislike button. Well, it was a load of rubbish. Oh, I liked it, Daddy. The character seemed to veer about all over the place. Her only special powers seemed to be closing down mines and stealing free bottles of milk from young school children. Oh, Margaret Thatcher, a controversial figure. There was a brief sensual subplot involving Ronald Reagan, but that kind of just fizzled out towards the end. It could just be that I got entirely the wrong idea about a misleadingly titled film. A bit like that time my mum rented Silence of the Lambs from the video shop for my young cousins to watch. Thinking it was going to be an innocent farmland adventure with talking animals. Well, one thing, Danny, they're definitely going to be fucking silent, aren't they? It's called Silence of the Lambs. You just get the movie and it's a bunch of literally silent lambs. It's like... It wasn't. They still have nightmares today. I remember a kid from my school, we must have been like 8, and he saw the movie It, which I think like in the 90s or whatever was, you know, that was pretty terrible. I know horror today is a little bit different, but it was scary. And he had clown wallpaper in his bedroom. And he tore it all down. But I'm reminded of this because many Business Blaze viewers pointed out in the comments of the first part of this video that the title, Facts Everyone Thinks Are True, didn't really make sense because most facts tend to be true anyway by their very nature. Oh my god, the comments were like, Simon, if they're not true, they're not facts, are they? And I'm like, shut the f*** up, you pedantic f***. I wasn't really, I was like, oh, thanks for the feedback. Brilliant. Oh, that was an empty cup. This one is full. Special effects. My favorite comment was from Mary Spangers, who remarked, I'm very disappointed that with a title like this, Danny just didn't start just listing completely non-controversial facts. I think I read that comment. That sounds like a brilliant idea for a future 7-part series on Business Blaze, Mary. It's also what I do on, I have another channel called Top 10s, which is just top 10 lists, and it is just facts. It's just, you know, 10 facts, or I mean, there's more in depth than that, obviously. But yeah, that's where I just state, you know, non-controversial facts. Although sometimes there'll be a video and people have like the most non-controversial I'll be like, yeah, the polio vaccine works. And people are like, no, it doesn't. You f***ing idiots. Oh my god, there was someone who left a comment the other day which hurt my eyes. They were like, no need for a vaccine to COVID, folks. Just rest, eat well, and exercise. And I just commented, you dumbass. Oh, and then I blocked you. I don't need your crazy ass shit. And people are like, you're blocking the truth. And I'm like, well, it's not my truth, is it? And guess whose f***ing channel it is, bitch. Tell you what, you want to put your own word out into the world? Start your own channel, get millions of subscribers, and then there's nothing I can do about it. I'll be waiting, you dumb
Daddy, chill.
In the meantime, I've stuck the word fake at the beginning of this sequel just to ensure that everyone's on board with the concept of this being a further look into misconceptions that a lot of people mistakenly believe to be true. Coca-Cola invented the modern... Oh, let's play a game again. How many of these does Simon already know? Play along at home. Coca-Cola invented the modern-day Santa Claus. I know this is false. I'm going to be proved a right idiot if I read one of these. Wait, no, we know they're false because Danny's putting them in this article. Jesus Christ, Simon. As a child, I'm not sure that I was ever really given an opportunity to fully embrace the concept of Santa Claus, or Father Christmas, as we normally call him in the UK. The problem with having a brother who's 5 years older than you is that many of life's magical little secrets are bluntly smashed wide open at a surprisingly young age. It also meant that for most of my childhood, I lay awake all night in terror of a potential bedtime visit from the Scissor Man with his sticky scissors. Nobody really is suggesting that Coca-Cola actually invented the entire concept of Santa Claus, as St. Nicholas would probably have something to say about that, but it's often claimed that the company created the familiar modern-day version of the chubby bushy bearded bloke, Jesus, in the red and white suit that was designed to match the colours of Coca-Cola's branding, and that they also invented all the stuff about the reindeers, the sleigh, the North Pole, and the pissing about chimneys. Going right back to the very beginning, St. Nicholas was a 4th century Christian saint living in what we'd call today Turkey, who had a reputation for secretly giving modest gifts to poor children. I made a Halted Air Found Out video about this, I'm pretty sure. Or at least it was an entry on a top 10s or something like that. Over the centuries to follow, the Netherlands really embraced the concept of St. Nick, and he would be celebrated every year during the Feast of St. Nicholas. At this point, he was envisaged as a thin figure in a pointy bishop's hat, who on this night would ride around on a donkey distributing gifts to the kids who would be encouraged to leave out their clogs at bedtime stuffed with straw for the donkey. The following morning, the straw had been replaced by little gifts which the kids were led to believe had been left by St. Nicholas in the night, all the ones who didn't have cynical older brothers anyway. Okay, but in this case, he was actually doing it, right? It was actually a real dude. So your brother would be like, yeah, no, he is real. He probably wouldn't have been able to fit a PlayStation inside a clog, but I'm pretty sure he could have shoved enough hit clips in there to make a teenager squeal. Ba-da-bum-bum, OG Business Plays legend joke right there. The legend of St. Nicholas travelled with the Dutch settlers who crossed the Atlantic in the 17th century to set up home in New Amsterdam, which would very quickly get rebranded as New York City. But about 150 years later, the legend took a new twist. In 1809, the Dutch writer Washington Irving penned a controversial book called A History of New York, which was intended to be a collection of satirical tales on traditional Dutch stories, although critics at the time also argued it was an attempt to annihilate the history of America. Yeah, if you're going to write a book like a satirical book, don't call it A History of New York. I mean, people in 1,000 years are going to be really confused. I mean, like, what? In the book, Washington introduces a new spoof version of St. Nicholas called Santa Claus. Wait, I thought he was real though. Who travels through the sky in a flying wagon and drops presents down chimneys of houses containing kids who've behaved particularly well this year. It was a parody of St. Nicholas that would eventually eclipse the fame of the original, as Santa Claus became the Americanized Santa Claus. A few years later, in 1823, New York writer Clement Clark Moore composed a poem entitled A Visit from St. Nicholas, which would later become more famously known as The Night Before Christmas. The poem was real. I'm going to roam a little while we blaze today. I did something to my back. I don't know why. I think this is the second time. I'm generally... sometimes I'm moving heavy shit around. I've also got a little home gym where I sometimes gym it a little too hard. I mean, bro, do you even lift? Apparently my back doesn't. The poem was only ever really meant for the entertainment of his own children, and it's believed that at one point he would even refuse to admit that he was the author. But the poem is significant, as Clement Clark Moore draws inspiration from Washington Irving's Santa Claus, but makes a few notable tweaks to make the tale more palatable to an American audience. For example, the clogs become stockings, and the flying wagon becomes a sleigh pulled by 8 cute reindeer, which suggests for the first time that Santa might have lived somewhere pretty frosty up north. Wait, how does this make it more palatable to Americans? You're like, oh yeah, well I wasn't okay with the flying wagon, but if there's 8 reindeer in front of it that also fly? Seems legit. At this point, Santa was seen as quite a thin, tall, and gaunt figure, but the guy who deserves the credit for coming up with a modern image of Santa is the 21-year-old German-born artist Thomas Nast, who in 1863 was commissioned to draw a front cover for the Journal of Harper's Weekly, the most popular publication to be printed throughout the course of the American Civil War. By the way, I googled myself the other day, as you do. And I just want to set something straight, because speaking of tall and thin Santa Claus... Oh God, come on! I give up. I f***ing give up. I'm just never going to use the internet again. I really thought I had to get a new phone because I thought the Wi-Fi card in it was f***ed, but it just turns out my router's good news, the router's a lot cheaper to replace. What I was gonna say is there was some website, you know, where it's like, celebrity facts, and I'm like, one, really? I still find it weird when something to someone or something describes me as a celebrity. It said like, Simon Whistler, height and weight facts, and I'm like, he's like 6'11" and weighs 58 kilograms. And I'm like, boy, you smoking crack?
Do you smoke crack?
That's insane. I'd be like the thinnest, tallest guy ever. Okay. There was something about something. Thomas Nast was asked to come up with a cover depicting Santa delivering gifts to troops fighting in the war. And it was here for the first time that we see Santa as a jolly, chubby, bearded fellow, although admittedly his costume looks a little odd now, as it features the American stars and stripes. These were quickly dropped when Thomas Nast continued to provide annual cover illustrations of Santa for Harper's Weekly for the next 40 years. Santa now modelled a new wool suit, which was very occasionally green, but usually the red and white outfit that we recognize today. In some later drawings, Thomas Nast depicts Santa Claus in a workshop in the North Pole for the first time, filling out a book with the names of children who'd been good or been naughty. So, by the time Coca-Cola commissioned the artist Haddon Sundblom to create a new, wholesome and approachable Santa for their marketing campaigns in the 1930s, most of the groundwork and backstory had already been put in place for years. Coca-Cola certainly played a part in popularizing this modern, rosy-cheeked version of Santa Claus, but if we're being picky, they weren't even the first soft drink company to depict this version of Santa in their marketing. White Rock Beverages had been using this fat, jolly, red and white Santa to flog bottles of mineral water since 1915. Having said all of this, I'm pretty sure Pepsi invented the Easter Bunny. But I think that's a lie. But sometimes it's hard to understand sarcasm. I'm pretty sure it's sarcasm. What I'm not going to be sarcastic about is what you should definitely do, and that's get some Surfshark. What do you think, ETA?
I'm hacking all your viewers'
Well, you won't be able to, because Surfshark is going to save the day. Do you use the internet? You obviously do. Do you have personal information that you'd rather remain private? I'm going to say the answer is yes. Who doesn't? Well, let me tell you something. The internet is kind of weird. There are people out there who want to ruin your day. Ooh, wow, that was really hard. I actually don't want to damage this because I want to plug it in winter and for it to actually work. These people, they want to take your details, steal your identity. I made a whole video about having your identity stolen on Today I Found Out. No, it was about if you die and you have to get a new identity, so similar sort of thing. Getting that sorted out is a massive pain in the ass. That's not even in the ad read, so get yourself some Surfshark. Surfshark has HackLark, this searches database for your passwords, which you're like, what? What are you doing? Don't search databases for my passwords. They're my passwords. And they're also like, my boss is a cock, so I don't want him to find that out. My password is actually, I love Google, my business daddy, thank you. But no, what they do is they search for your passwords. Then if they find it out there, they're like, oh boy, you better change your other passwords. Otherwise people are gonna hack your shit, son. Oh, but okay, so you've got HackLark. You've got your VPN up and running. Everything's nice. And you're like, I'm gonna watch The Hobbit. That's the example they give here. They're like, oh, you can only watch The Hobbit in the UK. Look, honestly, let me just be frank. I'm never gonna watch The Hobbit. It's just, I don't like anything wizardy. I don't like anything with spells. If there's a goblin, it can right off. But there is stuff, like I like Mad Men. Used to only be able to watch Mad Men in the US. Fire up that VPN. Just say like, oh yeah, definitely in Atlanta. Atlanta's the best. Stream through that. Surfshark's also totally unlimited, so if you want to download The Hobbit in raw 8K, I don't, but maybe someone does, you can go absolutely nuts. There's no logs, great support, 30-day money-back guarantee if you don't like it. So, support Business Blaze, 85% off, 3 months for free, link in the description below, or use the channel code BLAZE. I like that the sponsors have to use the channel code BLAZE. Okay, let's move on. Mozart composed Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when he was still in nappies. Don't know this one, but I do know that Mozart, he wrote a song about licking ass in a sexual way. Mozart, you dirty boy. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was a pretty clever kid. Also, bit of a deviant. Both he and his older sister, Nannerl, were regularly paraded around Europe as child prodigies, strutting their stuff on the piano.
I learned to play
with my balls.
To packed houses while their peers were still learning the alphabet and poking each other in the eye with big sticks. I've got a kid who's 9 months old and I'll be like, there's nothing, you can't do anything. There's like this plastic piano and all she does is slam it with her hands. I'm incredibly disappointed. No! And to Anna, who might be watching this in 10 years, I'm sorry. Also, look, your daddy's such a dick. To some, it may seem slightly ludicrous. There's a long-standing myth that Mozart was somewhere between 5 and 8 years old when he first composed his timeless lullaby, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, as a gift for his sister. To some, it may seem slightly ludicrous that a child so young was the mind by perhaps one of the most recognizable little ditties of all time, which continues to pacify dribbling babies hundreds of years on. Baby Anna has a toy, and it plays that, what the fuck is it called? Like, knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone, but rolling home. This old man came rolling home, except it finishes. It goes boop 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 boop, and I'm like, the ending's wrong. The ending's wrong. What the fuck? And it's not like there's copyright on that.
Do you know the garbage man? Because I do, because I'm looking right at him again. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Pisses me off every time. She doesn't seem to mind at all. I'm also very disappointed about that, Anna. But it's probably closer to the truth that such a composition would actually have been beneath Mozart at the age of 5. He was already working on far more complex compositions. The actual words of the lullaby come from a poem entitled The Star, which was written by English author Jane Taylor and first appeared in published form in 1806 in a collection of poems by Jane and her sister, which was called Rhymes for the Nursery. By this time, Mozart was no longer a young child prodigy. In fact, he was pushing up daisies as he died in 1791. The actual melody was composed much earlier, though. In fact, it's an old traditional French song called Ah, vous direz, yeah, maman, which roughly translates as Oh, shall I tell you, mummy? Although first published in 1761, the tune probably stretches back a lot further, way before Mozart was born, and there's no concrete evidence of who wrote it. Fascinating stuff. Someone the other day left a comment. I don't know why I read the comments. What am I doing with my life? And they're like, Simon, I've become very disappointed in business plays. You used to care and show some level of interest in the scripts, and it just seems lately that you've just lost interest. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess. It was about 50 years later that people first started singing the words of the Star poem to the tune of Oh, Shall I Tell You, Mummy? And in a similar approach to the Phil Collins back catalogue, the exact same melody was recycled again and again for several other popular poems, including Bar Bar Black Sheep and the Alphabet Song. Did Phil Collins sing that one? And there's something in the air tonight. Oh Lord, because that's really good. That's a really good song. And I don't like that Danny makes fun of Phil Collins. I think he's quite talented. Mozart did later publish 12 of his own variations on the melody when he was a young man, and they were probably just intended as simple piano exercises for his young pupils, but he certainly didn't have anything to do with the mashup of a poem melody that eventually became recognized as Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. A younger Mozart wouldn't have had time for such trivial nonsense anyway. By the time he was 8 years old, he'd already composed about 22 more highbrow pieces, and so the child prodigy really didn't need to add this simple nursery rhyme to his long list of works. There's no question that he was a young genius. I bet he was crap at pinball though. I bet he was. Did pinball even exist back then? Alcohol kills brain cells. Oh, thank God this isn't this, because I was like, oh, I'm so fucked. As time goes by, it'll be like, by the time I get to 40, it'll be like, there's nothing left up there. And some people think that already. Several years ago, I was attending either a family wedding or a family funeral. I can't remember which it was now. They're both very similar in the sense that it's one of those rare occasions when you're forced to meet up with the extended family and everyone ends up getting drunk. A relative leaned over and said very sternly, Daniel, I often wonder how much more you might have achieved in life if only you hadn't stopped destroying so much of those brain cells with booze. Well, next time you meet up with that family member, be like, random family member, check this out. There's another British man who acts drunk and reads my scripts and makes fun of them. Actually, on second thoughts, Danny, maybe best not. I think those words stuck with me for a while, for at least 5 minutes. Maybe I could have been an astronaut by now. I've had drunk quite so many bottles of white lightning in the meadows during my youth. But no, it turns out that he was talking out of his arse, and I wish I'd known this at the time. Alcohol doesn't kill brain cells at all. Well, if we're being really picky, drinking an absolutely insane amount of alcohol would probably kill your brain cells. But the amount you'd have to drink would be so huge that you'd already be dead long before you noticed that you were a few brain cells down. Well, on that note, Huh. Oh, that doesn't smell good at 9 o'clock in the morning. But some absolute Business Blaze legend sent me a bottle of scotch. Thank you. It's really nice. It's a fancy bottle of scotch, which I'm going to thoroughly enjoy. But the amount you'd have to drink would be so huge that you'd already be dead long before you notice that you're a few brain cells down. Okay, thank you. This is good. We're coming back to the good news. Some reports have suggested that drinking a moderate amount of alcohol can actually help improve your mental and cognitive functions. Way! I could use some help in that regard. In one notable Australian study, moderate drinkers were found to have superior cognitive function over heavy drinkers, occasional drinkers, and even non-drinkers. But before we get too carried away with the good news, I suppose we should point out that drinking alcohol can damage the brain in other ways. Although it might not directly destroy the brain cells, it can damage the dendrites, the branch-like ends of the brain cells which play a crucial part in passing on signals from one neuron to another. So to put it another way, drinking alcohol can potentially just make the line go a bit fuzzy rather than smash the whole telephone to bits. And the damage isn't permanent, as the dendrites can be repaired with training and therapy. Really? It's like, yeah, you gotta go see a therapist because I fucked my brain by drinking too much. They're repairing my dendrites. Obviously, drinking yourself silly is never going to do anything good in the long term, but if anyone ever tries to tell you in the future that you're destroying your brain cells with booze, you can at least take a bit of pleasure from telling them that they're dumb for thinking such a thing. And don't forget to show them to Business Blaze, tell them to subscribe, smash that like button, and purchase the merch. .co. Our fingernails and hair grow super long after we've died. No, I know this to be false. I'm a big fan of old and creaky horror films. I've seen several examples of scenes in which an ancient coffin is dug up and prized open to reveal a rotting corpse with overflowing hair and ridiculously long curly fingernails that would give Edward Scissorhands a run for his money. I've never seen that. Is that really a thing? But I've never seen movies, so as everyone always points out. And it's like, I don't understand, I just don't watch that much stuff. I was like, oh my god, Simon, you've never seen this? It's like, no, I don't know, I'm just not into it. It's like the biggest shock in the world that I don't like, I don't know, tons of old movies. I don't like tons of old books. I don't like tons of old TV shows. I don't, I just don't care. So they just keep growing and growing and growing long after you've thrown a 7. Bada-bum-bum. Now, a smart-ass viewer of the horror film may end up shouting at the screen in disgust. He might exclaim, "That's so bloody stupid. Your fingernails don't keep on growing after you've carked it. Why don't they research things properly, like they do on Business Blaze? F***ing idiots." But in fact, he wouldn't be entirely right either. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. The long-held myth that nails and hair grow long after death may stem from the fact that funeral directors do sometimes need to do a bit of trimming and tidying up on a dead body before wheeling it out for the family to see. Also, that's a very, I feel this is not a British thing. I've never seen a dead person in my life. Never seen a dead person. And, at funerals, the casket is not open. That is closed up because we don't want to look at our dead relatives because it's weird. Smash that dislike button. But it's not like they have to get out the garden shears. The skin around the fingernails of a corpse will naturally retract as it becomes dehydrated, and this does sometimes give the impression that the fingernails have grown, when in fact it's more of a case of the skin around them shrinking and exposing more nail. The scalp will also dry out, exposing more hair on top, while a male corpse may appear to have more prominent stubble when the chin dries up and starts pulling back towards the skull. All of this is very pleasant. This doesn't mean that he's going to end up looking like the Thomas Nast depiction of Santa Claus if left unattended for a few weeks. However, it would be inaccurate to suggest that hair and fingernail growth stops immediately after death. After the heart stops beating, your lights don't all go out at once. Your alcohol-invincible brain cells may die fairly quickly, but other cells in the body will take a little longer to fade, and it's technically possible for hair and nails to carry on growing for a very short time. But bearing in mind the fingernails only grow about an average of 0.1 millimeters per day anyway, and the whole process is only likely to last a few minutes at most after death, I'd be surprised if anyone ever really noticed. So, to be completely accurate, nails and hair may keep growing for just a few short moments after you've died, but you're not going to need heavy-duty manicure down at the funeral directors. Thank God, I was very concerned about this. And it's reassuring to know that we're not currently walking above the graves of New Age hippie zombies. Also, I think when I die, I'm definitely thinking about having my body frozen. People think this is weird, and I just don't get why people think that's weird. I mean, everyone's going to explain to me in the comments well, of course, first of all, there's the religious people who are like, you're not looking forward to death? Like, no, an endless void of nothingness? Are you kidding? I don't believe that the shit afterwards, so no.
After you died, where did you go? What did you see?
There was nothing at all.
And then there's people like, oh, it's part of the natural cycle. I'm like, the natural cycle. You know what else is part of the natural cycle? Polio. that. I am definitely, like, if I had the choice of not dying, it's the worst outcome. The worst possibility is death. Okay, so maybe getting frozen, I'm not gonna get woken up in 1,000 years and everything's gonna be glorious and they'll heal whatever was wrong with me and all of the problems with freezing bodies now. But it's like, what's the alternative? Death. And it's reassuring to know that we're not currently walking above the graves of new age hippie zombies. Okay. Your ancestors were cheeky little monkeys. No, they weren't. I know this one's a myth. It's not how evolution works. Finally, there seems to be a widely held belief that if you take time and effort to really trace your family tree properly, you'll eventually come across your monkey ancestors. Who believes this? After all, that's what Charles Darwin is supposed to have claimed in his Theory of Evolution and his 1871 book. The Descent of Man. Isn't it the Ascent of Man? Is it the Descent of Man? In my whole life, I thought it was the Ascent of Man. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna go crazy. Nope, it is definitely the Descent of Man. I have been wrong my entire life.
What else is new?
Charles Darwin never really said any such thing. In fact, he was quite cagey about his choice of words in books such as On the Origin of Species. While he speculated that all living things descend from one prototype, including humans and monkeys, he never once stated that your ancestor is a chimp. The point to bear in mind here is that humans and chimps are now widely believed to be about the same age anyway. We both started popping up on the planet around 7 or 8 million years ago, so we can hardly be called the children of chimpanzees. In a way, we're more like cousins, because monkeys and apes are now believed to share the same mysterious common ancestor. Millions of years ago, an enigmatic creature roamed the Earth that we don't really know anything about. It's speculated that he shared traits with both humans and apes, and he favored the use of tools, but other than that, he remains an elusive figure. At some point in history, this monkey man of mystery split into two completely separate lineages, with one lineage evolving into gorillas and chimps, and the other lineage evolving into hominids, our real early human ancestors. So this unknown ancestor was a kind of parent which gave birth to two different species. Half of his children ended up as gormless beasts that liked eating bananas and mooching about while beating their hairy chests, and the other half became chimps. Ba-da-bum-bum. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do smash that like button below. Go get Surfshark. There's a link to them below. Keep Simon stocked up in expensive booze by supporting our sponsors. And yeah, that's about it really. Oh, if you'd like to purchase the merch, purchasethemerch.co. Well, thank you for watching. God, this script took an absolute beating. Look at that. Boop 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 boop.